Now.
Live. Good morning.
Morning, Betty.
Good morning, Debbie. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm looking forward to this morning because I think it might be a bit sweary, as we've literally got one of the worst swear words in the title.
It's not the worst, though, is it? This is just a normal, everyday word now. I think it's used in context. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's not the worst word, is it? So yeah, what are we talking about this morning, Bertie?
Well, today we're showing you how to F perfection. Fuck perfection.
Fuck perfection. So yeah, we didn't prepare for this to honour the title
exactly.
of the talk.
Normally have some notes. These are just last week's notes on the back of here. Like, doesn't have to be perfect, does it? Showing up's much more important.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the thing, actually, isn't it? I think when you want everything to be perfect, sometimes you never get started.
Yeah, exactly.
You never put yourself out there. It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, I think with any business, with anything that you do, like if you're just waiting for that perfect moment to start something when magical, when all the stars align and it's never going to happen. Like, do it now. Just do it now. So I think perfection is such a productivity killer. It can slow people down so much because it's like, oh, they've maybe done something and then they won't release it because it's not perfect, and then it never gets done. And perfection is so subjective anyway. Something that you think is amazing, I might think is rubbish. So, like, who's to judge? Who's to judge, Dudar?
And what I've learned is that anyway, things that you think are good, 2 years later, you'll think were rubbish.
Yeah.
Because you'll have moved on and you'll have added to your skill set and you'll have polished around the edges. So it's only, even if you're aiming for perfection, you feel like you've got it, it's only in that one point in time. And then a week later or a month later, you're like, oh, I could have improved upon that. So it kind of doesn't exist. Like it could exist for a second and then it's gone. So trying to attain that, it's just not possible. It's just not there. Like, and we know that saying done is better than perfect. But even if you get to perfection a week later, it's not perfect anymore because you'll see holes in it. So trying to get to this kind of nirvana, this unattainable point, is just going to stall you in your tracks.
Completely. I think done is better than perfect always. Like, just get it out there. And I think just to put this into context, I'm not talking about, producing shit social media content or doing a shit job or providing a shit job to your client.
Yeah, sure.
Right? That is not what I'm talking about at all. But, generally, like when you're starting something, like you have to start somewhere. So let's just say you've made a social media video or a post, and then you've looked at that and you've compared it maybe to one of your peers, but they're 2 or 3 years ahead. It's not a fair comparison. So you're trying to attain something.
Yeah.
But it's just not practical to do. So you have to start at the beginning. Like if you start, if you're comparing your journey to somebody else, don't compare where they are now. Like scroll back to the beginning of their Instagram feed. Look at that first video that they put out. So yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Just get stuff out there, and you can test it in the real world and see.
And that's the other thing. If you wait until something's perfect before you put it out there, you might find that nobody is interested. And then you spent all this time polishing and creating this amazing video, sales page, product. And then you're like, oh, actually, I need to go back to the drawing board. People don't want it. And if you're putting stuff out there as you're developing your offer, your sales messaging, your Friday morning lives, you will be able to start molding it and creating it based on the feedback that you've got. But if you wait until you feel like you're perfect, you're never going to be able to get that feedback, which means you're never growing and learning. You're just in your own bubble, aren't you? Just creating something in isolation. And nothing is in isolation because you're generally creating something for somebody else to use it, buy it, watch it, listen to it, however their kind of that interaction is. And if we look back at our first business Funsize lives, we were really wooden, and we didn't really know how to interact with each other, and we were just sort of trying something out. And as we've developed, we've built this rapport that now seems seamless and lovely. But if you go and watch the first ones back, they're not that great. But we would never have got to this point if we hadn't have given ourselves permission to just start.
Exactly. So yeah, like we didn't go and practice there, and we just went ahead and just did it. Like we just picked a subject and went and spoke. And actually, like it's evolved. Like if you remember the first one that we did before we got names 10 at 10, I can't remember what we'd even called it, but it was about a year ago. Shit, it might even be our birthday, dude. Might even be our birthday. But yeah, if we actually go back, I think it was last September, so there's a good chance it is. And look at it, like the first one was an hour long. I can't remember what we were talking about, but then actually, like we went an hour, we spoke for an hour.
Oh my
And
God.
then we did the next one, and then actually we condensed it down to 10 minutes. So this evolves. So you just have to put stuff out and try it and see how it works, and then you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Not implement, incrementally build on it. That was the word. I don't begin with a letter.
Building it. Yeah, and I think the other thing is, so when this week I spoke at a conference and I got such great feedback from my talk at the conference. Everybody's saying, "Oh, it's amazing! You're the best speaker," which is great because that just makes me want to do more of it. And at the beginning,
it was awesome. Just saying.
Before we went live, Bertie said, "Had you practiced it?" No, I hadn't practiced it. I'd obviously put the slides together and I had a sense of where that was going, but I hadn't practiced it. And what that enabled me to do was kind of ad lib and add in funny little bits. And I think that if I'd given that talk and I'd stood in front of a mirror and practiced it word for word, by the time I presented it, it would have felt a bit wooden and a bit over practice. And I think actually sometimes when you aim for perfection, you polish it so much that it becomes dull.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense? Like you kind of like you keep taking some of the lovely bits away and you're just trying to get it to that point. And actually, humans like humans to be imperfect. We like things to be a bit funny. We like things to feel like they're not completely polished because we can't kind of build a relationship with polish because we're not essentially polished ourselves. So actually having things a little bit rough around the edges, I think is a really attractive quality. And too perfect means it can be a bit boring and dull because you take all the loveliness away.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you've just reminded me actually, and it's something that stayed with me for a long time. Like I did it was an investor presentation, and I just thought it'd be fine. I can just go up and do my thing, but then had to go through all of this training to do it, and it had to be 3 minutes. And their thing was it has to be perfect. So then my original presentation got tore up. I had to then do another one, practiced it for weeks. In the end, I'd like record myself, had it in my headphones, had all these special little cue points on the slides to remind me what to do. Like it had to be perfect. I got up on stage and then the wrong slides had been put on. It didn't have my cue point. So that small minor thing completely threw me. So within a minute, I'd completely fucked it up. So I was stood on stage, stood there, everybody looking at me, and I was just like,
oh no.
Stopped, took a breath, just forgot the slides, and then was just me.
Yeah.
So the second half was so much better, but it wasn't what it was supposed to be. And I learned from that experience, like there is no way now I can go up and have like prescribed talk practice in that way. Like you, I would just have slides and just be me, because generally I can then think on my feet and just do that sort of stuff. So yeah, but not everybody can do that. And if you do need that, practice, then do it that way. And that's fine. It's a very personal thing, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Like people are buying or people are watching you, and whatever style is you, then that's what they're buying into.
That's a good point that Lee's just made as well. He says, like, when people on Dragon's Den seem like they're reading a script, it's really obvious and they are more likely to fuck it up. And that's the other thing as well. If you want it to be perfect and you're trying to stick to a script and then you do mess up, kind of like what happened with your slides, it's really difficult for you then to get back into the flow because you've kind of told yourself a story that it has to be exactly perfect. And if you can't attain that, then it all just starts falling away and your brain just starts kind of having a bit of a meltdown. That's that with speaking. But I think we can put this with everything. Like I work with a lot of people and they think, well, I can't put my website out yet because it's not perfect. I don't have all the stuff in there. And it's like, it's, I don't know, 70% done. Just put it out there because honestly, your products, your services, your branding, you'll be tinkering with that to the day you die, because you'll be like, oh, I just add in this word. Oh, what if I change this thing? Oh, does that make my conversion rate higher? Oh, if I change the buy it now button, do more people buy? Like, actually, you want to give yourself permission to keep tinkering with it. So it will never be perfect. It will never be finished. So just get the stuff out there, get the feedback, and then adapt and edit as you go along.
Yeah.
Based on kind of what you're learning and finding out. And I think if you are somebody who wants everything to be perfect, ask yourself what you're scared of. Like, why does it need to be perfect? What happens if it isn't perfect? Like, allow yourself to go down that path of, well, if it's not perfect, then what happens? Then what happens? And ask yourself, is that true? You know, because some people are like, well, if it's not perfect, then nobody will buy my stuff, and then my business will fail, and then I'm going to end up in a cardboard box and dead, or whatever your route to, you know, dissolution is. That's not true, is it?
No.
And sometimes we hold on to these fears and they're not real, but we're telling ourselves a story. So if you do want to be perfect, just allow yourself a bit of time to examine why. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's this comparison thing. Like when I speak to, especially like startups and things like that, it's like, oh yeah, we want to be like Apple and we want to do this and we don't need to test in the real world. It's like Apple do. And bear in mind, Apple have been about for like 30, 40 years now. You know, they started off in a garage with Steve Jobs and the other guy, I can't remember his name, you know, with soldering irons, putting bits together.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, it was a startup at that time. So, you know, compare yourself to then, not now. So yeah, I think this perfection thing also, I think the time when it gets dangerous is when people use it as an excuse. Mm-hmm. So it's, oh, is your website launched? Oh yeah, no, it's not finished. What needs doing? It like, and then it never gets launched, because if it's not, like, if someone uses an excuse, if it's not perfect, they don't have to launch it, and then they don't have to fail.
Yeah.
You don't have to experience that. And that's, you know, that's the worry, I think, with these things, when people are too scared to put something out, and perfection is using it as an excuse. It's like, well, just try it. Like, what is the worst that can happen? And when these thoughts come into their head, like, they're not real, like, is their business going to fail because their website's not perfect? I've just relaunched my website this week. I've literally got 4 pages copied from my old one, but I needed it moving over, and it's done. Is it perfect? Far from it. There's loads of things that needs changing on it, but it's there and it's working. It's doing its job. So yeah, it's you know, we follow this advice ourselves as well, and we're doing all right.
Yeah, make it up as you go along, guys.
Yeah.
So George, thank you for commenting. So George has said, I've learned that it's not fair to ask for perfection from my growing team. Oh, that's a really good point. It sounds stupid, but I put such high standard on things and it's not realistic. I think it's because it's my baby. I think like that, but I can't expect that level from others. Yeah, if you're a perfectionist and then you're expecting people around you to also meet your high standards, that's really hard, isn't it? That's a lot of pressure to put on people. Because actually everybody makes mistakes sometimes and gets things wrong. And that's how we learn. Like, we learn from our mistakes.
Exactly. And I think with you, George, as well, you know, it comes back to that initial point, like, perfection is so subjective. So it's like, you know, like art is subjective, isn't it? So someone might do something and they might think it's at that perfect level for them, but it's not to your standard. And is that good or bad? Or so it's very different. So yeah, giving your team the autonomy to actually go out there and make mistakes and learn from that and step back is really difficult, especially when you're growing a startup. And I found that, and when, like, you know, going back to like the Fill My Belly days, it was like, in my head, it was, no one can do this but me. I'm the only person that can do this. So to be able to let that go and just see what happens is a really, really powerful thing to be able to do. So well done for recognizing that. And it sounds like you're doing that as well. But, you know, I feel you. I understand how difficult that can be. Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing. I feel your pain, George. When I first co-launched my first business a decade ago, we had a team. And there's a bit of me that's like, I can just do this faster. I can just do all of this faster than having to train you how to do it. And then you're not doing it as quite how I would do it or as fast as I would do it. And that letting go is really hard, because you're just like, I might as well just do it because I can just get on with it. And I think trusting other people and letting them know that you trust them and letting them know that it's okay if they make mistakes and you'll be there for them. That's a skill in itself, isn't it? Especially when it's your baby, because you know exactly how you want things to be done. But I think sometimes you make mistakes and amazing things happen out of the mistakes that you could never have predicted. So that's the other side of this as well. When we're perfect, we're controlling all elements. And that doesn't allow for magic and extra things to come around. And when we let go of that control, sometimes interesting things happen. Some businesses are built out of odd quirks that they didn't kind of realize were going to happen. I have got no examples, but I know in my head there are some out there in the world. And actually, by allowing things to kind of organically grow, you might see opportunities for your business or different areas of growth. So having that like knuckle hard control over stuff all the time can be counterintuitive.
And it can be very tiring as well. Very tiring.
Exhausting. Let go.
Yeah, just let go. I think, going back to what George was saying, I think if you've got, rather than actually micromanaging and being in the detail of everything, if you can step back and instead of managing the individual work, actually manage the process of seeing things through from end to end, how these ideas help prioritizing, test them out. What did we learn? What did we, all of that stuff is a much better use of your time than getting involved in actually, this font's 2 points too big on this. It's like, fuck off, just leave it as alone. Let us do our job. And then you can grow the business in that way. So, those things are much more important.
Is it like a pick your battles? PYB, pick your battles. Like what's really mission critical or important? Not all of it is it? Let some things go.
Yeah, that's it. And you'll be surprised sometimes. You'll be surprised actually that stuff that maybe isn't perfect to you, or you think, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And again, it's getting back to that point originally. We're not accepting what Lee was saying. I can't say the word.
Mediocre.
Mediocrity is the word I was looking for. That's not it. That's not what we're talking about here. But yeah, just trying things out and just pushing it a little bit is much more important. And yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but you'll learn something from it, and then you can build on it from there.
Love it. So
lovely.
Fuck perfection, guys.
Fuck perfection.
Just get it done.
I've got the finger in the middle, but you can't. It's just like poking up, like
up here,
like
somewhere.
Looks a bit dodgy, that. But there's a finger behind us.
All right. Well, I think that's it for today.
I think we're done. I think we are done.
Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much. If you watched this live, you're watching the catch up. Thank you very much for joining. This will be on the podcast as well, live at 1 o'clock today. If you want to just not look at us and you can just hear us in the ear, on all good podcast apps and all that stuff. So thank you very much. And we will be back next week, 10 a.m. for 10 minutes ish of chitter chatter about another subject, which we're about to figure out now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.